Test, 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 test. Durham, how are you? Happy New Year to you.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, look, Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started, and it's great to have everybody here tonight. The time is now 7:01, and welcome to the April 8th, 2019 meeting of the Durham County Board of Commissioners. I will now read the public charge. The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until the individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. And as a courtesy to others, please turn off your cell phones. And I would now ask that you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening? Seeing there are no adjustments, I'll move on to the announcements. There's a tax relief program information session hosted by Durham County Tax Administration Office happening tomorrow at noon at the Durham Center for Senior Life in the theater at 406 Rigsby Avenue. And this is an opportunity for our seniors to learn about the homestead property tax exemption for seniors and disabled residents, along with other tax relief programs available in North Carolina. So if you know any seniors who might be interested, please encourage them to attend tomorrow. Your insight is needed. We are entering the Durham County budget season for the fiscal year 2019-20 budget. We'd love to hear from everyone in our community, and you can give us input at a online budget comment portal that will be available on our website. And if you could, just on our front page, that should be available, as well as looking up at our announcements. Calling all Durham youth. Over 22% of our population are youth under the age of 18. Our Kids Voting Youth Survey is looking for input from our youth, and there is a survey available at www.kidsvotingdurham.org. You can find out more information at 919-560-7321. A technology mobile open house is happening on Wednesday, April 10th from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at South Regional Library, 4505 South Austin Avenue. And it is a great unveiling of the Durham County Library Technology Mobile. So we're excited about this. It will also be National Bookmobile Day. So this is a new asset for our community, this technology mobile. My Brother's Keeper Durham Mini Grant Program is accepting applications right now. If you are a local organization that is doing work geared towards young men of color, we encourage you to look at applying for a grant. And more information can be found at www.mbkdurham.info. And the deadline for the applications is April 12th, which is that Friday? Friday. So want to get the word out about this great opportunity. There's also a Boys of Color Conference happening this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Miller Morgan Auditorium, 1801 Fayetteville Street on the NCCU campus, which is being co-sponsored by My Brother's Keeper Durham. And it is also geared towards young men of color and is free of charge for young black males ages 14 and up. Also, they're looking for volunteers and sponsors. And please contact My Brother's Keeper at dconc.gov if you are interested in helping out. Expanding housing choices, community conversation. Please join in on Saturday, April 27th, 9 a.m. to noon at the Walltown Park Recreation Center, 1308 West Club Boulevard, to learn more about the initiative that's happening to look at how we can expand housing options to create more housing and more affordable housing in Durham. There will be child activities and interpretation. You can find out more information from the Planning Department, ECH at durhamnc.gov. Microsoft Man Code Camp is a one-day tech conference aimed to provide technological, educational, and life skills training opportunities for young minority boys in underrepresented areas. This will be happening on May 4th at the NCCU campus. For more information and registration, contact Edmund Lewis, who is our MBK manager, 919-560-8154. There's also a Alliance Health Community Forum happening on Tuesday, May 14th, 6 to 8 p.m. to learn more about Medicaid transformation that's happening in the state of North Carolina, which will be at the Community Family Life and Recreation Center at Lyon Park, 1309 Halley Street. Please sign up for Alert Durham at alertdurham.com. And please get involved in Durham County government. We have more than 44 boards and commissions, and we'd love to have your help, and you can find out more at our website. So lots of announcements of lots of great opportunities and things happening in our community. Any other announcements? We have our minutes from our regular session, February 11th, 2019, and our regular session, March 11th, 2019, up for approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reckow, seconded by Commissioner Hill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the minutes are unanimously approved. We have a lot of ceremonial items tonight. 7 different proclamations and resolutions, which is awesome. And we have so many great people here tonight because of that. But in the interest of time, I know that we all like to make a lot of comments about these wonderful proclamations and resolutions. We're going to try to keep our comments to a minimum tonight. So we will start with our proclamation for the Week of the Young Child. And I know we have a lot of people here from the Partnership for Durham, Durham Partnership for Children. And Hallie Barber, are you here with us? Or Laura, are you going to be the one here? Well, whoever you want to bring up with you, and please recognize how many people are here with you tonight as well. I want to make sure we don't leave anybody out.
I'll have an opportunity to recognize all of my colleagues and partners in this effort in brief remarks after the proclamation.
Well, thank you, Laura. And Commissioner Reckow is going to give us the honors.
Yes, it's my pleasure to read the proclamation, the Week of the Young Child 2019. Whereas early childhood from birth to age 5 represents the most critical time in children's development and is the foundation for success in school and life. And whereas Durham's Partnership for Children, along with Child Care Services Association and Durham Technical Community College, are celebrating the nationally recognized Week of the Young Child. And whereas making sure children are ready to learn is a community endeavor that involves parents, child care providers, policymakers, businesses, congregations, and community agencies. And whereas high-quality early care supports Durham's current workforce for families with young children who rely on child care to work. And whereas early care and education is an economic development strategy at the beginning of the talent pipeline. And whereas early childhood programs support children and families as they prepare to enter school. And whereas transition to kindergarten must be a smooth, coordinated process for children, parents, and schools that greatly minimizes the achievement gap. And whereas comprehensive, bilingual, evidence-based programs in parent education and literacy increase family stability. And whereas access to health care and early intervention are improved through community partnerships and government initiatives to positively impact young children's health. And whereas collaborative services, family support, and education can help break the cycle of poverty and dismantle systems that perpetuate racial disparities and inequity that affects more than half of Durham's children and create opportunities in early childhood that have a lasting impact in the community. And whereas our community leaders have invested significant resources to research, data analysis, programmatic interventions for young children, and whereas Durham continues to be a leader in statewide and national efforts that prioritize children birth to age 5 and their families. Now, therefore, I, Wendy Jacobs, Chair of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April 8th to 12th, 2019, as the Week of the Young Child and recognize Durham's Partnership for Children, Child Care Services Association, and Durham Technical Community College for the exemplary model of collaboration which continues to improve the landscape of early education for Durham residents and benefits present and future generations. This, the 8th day of April, 2019, Wendy Jacobs, Chair, Durham Board of County.
Thank you. And Laura, before you begin, we also want all of us to recognize you because of your impending retirement, just all of your contributions to our community. We're really grateful in your leadership for children in our community. Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Again, it's an honor to stand before the Board of County Commission. We work together on a much more daily and weekly basis in informal and work settings than in these more formal committee settings. But we are here to say thank you for this proclamation and for all that it entails. I am Laura Benson, the Executive Director of Durham's Partnership for Children, and for many years I would stand here quite alone. Tonight, on this wonderful night of rain and car washing that's happening, rivulets of pollen are flowing through the parking deck as we speak, I'm not here at all alone. I stand with Kathy Colley Robinson, the director of the Early Childhood Program at Durham Tech, who is also the chair of the board of Durham's Partnership, and Linda Chappelle, the senior vice president of Child Care Services Association, who also holds a long-standing board seat at the partnership, along with many, many others, and we will recognize them shortly. You know, if you think back, not too long ago, it was a lone voice in the wilderness that was championing young children. Not a few years ago, it might have been more like a singer on a stage with an attentive audience, but still usually kind of a solo aria voice. To continue that musical metaphor, we are now, on cue, we are now a harmonious chorus, a symphony of many pitches and tenors. And it's really the task of organizations like the Partnership, like Child Care Services Association, like Durham Technical Community College in our collaboration, to be conductors, if you will, and to amplify the harmony of this symphony for the benefit of young children. We know that our unified early childhood system, this symphony, if you will, is built on many voices that the proclamation recognizes. The voices of parents and families and households and caring adults in the lives of children, the voice of research and data, the voice of equity, access, and inclusion, the voice of educators and providers, the voice of children who stand at the center, encircled by all of the great leadership and the caring people in our community. So tonight, again, in the interest of time, if I might ask any board or former board members of these organizations or staff to stand. If I could ask, if you might remain standing, if I might ask providers, educators, teachers, and child care owners to stand. If I might also ask students, if you're not already standing, and parents of young children to stand. If you are a member of the Durham Pre-K Governance Committee and you're not already standing and are able, if you would join us and stand to be recognized.
No more though. She's.
And if you are a member of the Durham community who cares about our present day and our future, and you are invested in the health and well-being of young children, and you are interested in the economic development and vitality of our community, our safety, our environment.
Better be all standing up. Everybody better be getting up. Everybody.
Although we come in somewhat uniform, which is not typical for us, it's feeling a little interesting that we're all dressed like this. The beauty of tonight, even though it is budget season, we are here to only say thank you. We are only here to say thank you for your vision, for your generous investment, and for the way that you have entrusted in the organizations that are pillars in this community to carry out this work that is on your behalf and on the behalf of the entire community. Thank you for keeping that long vision going and for walking with us on this journey. Through thick and thin, we're here to say thank you to this visionary community. You're not only leaders here, you're leaders in our state, and later on the recognitions, you will note that you are leaders in the nation for your care and commitment to young children. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura, and thank you everyone that came tonight. Everyone who works with children, you are the heart of our community. You do the most important job other than being a parent. And as you know, that educating our children and our commitment to universal access to high-quality pre-K is our number one priority in Durham County, so thank you. We have next a proclamation, another topic here to celebrate Lineman Appreciation Day. And we have Indira Everett with us from Duke Energy and also a special guest. If you would please bring him up with you as well, Indira. And I will first read the proclamation and then welcome any comments. The Durham Board of County Commissioners Proclamation for Lineman Appreciation Day 2019. Whereas the profession of Duke Energy lineman is steeped in personal, family, and professional tradition, And whereas Duke Energy linemen are often first responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to make the scene safe for other public safety officials. And whereas these brave men and women work with thousands of volts of electricity high atop power lines 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to keep electricity flowing. And whereas Duke Energy linemen must often work under dangerous conditions, far from their families, to construct and maintain energy infrastructure throughout the state of North Carolina and the United States. And whereas Durham County thanks our heroic linemen who supported restoration in Puerto Rico last year. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Wendy Jacobs, Chair of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim Thursday, April 18th, 2019 as Lineman Appreciation Day in Durham County, North Carolina. This, the 8th day of April, 2019. Wendy Jacobs, Chair, Durham Board of County Commissioners. So thank you, Indira, for being here for this proclamation.
Thank you, Chairwoman Jacobs, all of our commissioners, our county manager, and our county attorney. Thank you so much for honoring our linemen tonight. I have the privilege of being here with Brian Hinton. Our other lineman cannot join us, and actually he's waiting for the phone to ring in case there are any issues tonight. And so I honor him. I have the privilege of working in Durham in the office with the other linemen. There are 35, and then we have contractors that work with us as well. And they do work tireless hours, day in, day out, rain, sleet, shine. They're always there, and they're always ready to serve, and they want to make sure our citizens are comfortable and as quickly as possible. And so I'm privileged to have Brian here. He's only been with the company 2 years. I'm very proud to say we have a new general manager in our office that I hope to bring back to introduce to you as well, Jason Haynes, who will be joining us coming from one of our plants. We're delighted to have him. And I'm also delighted that our workforce looks like our community, and we take that seriously. And so Brian is an example of making sure our community is represented at our place of work. And so on behalf of him and the 34 others that are here, I congratulate them. I'm proud to serve with them every day. And I'm going to ask Brian to receive the proclamation. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. And Brian, I don't know if I'll give you the opportunity if you have any comments to make.
It's a real honor to be here. I thank you so much on behalf of Duke Energy and all the linemen around the world. It's a real honor, and I love to represent this company. I appreciate working, making things safe for this community, and it's a real honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Brian, for the work that you do and all the linemen. We know we all depend on them. My lights were flickering tonight during the storm, and I was praying that they wouldn't go out. So we all really depend on you, and thank you so much for your work. And Indira, can we give a little plug for the program at Durham Tech?
Thank you so much for reminding me of that. We're delighted to have partnered with Durham Tech last year, and we awarded them $200,000 to start a line worker program here because we are very serious. A lot of our linemen are 50 and older, and so they're aging out and they're retiring, and so we're in desperate need. We need several hundred throughout our service territory, and so that program should start in the fall. And so if you know any interested candidates that may be a good fit for what we do, they certainly have to love being outside, like heights, and not be afraid of them like I am. But if you know of any interested candidates, please let me know. I'll be happy to talk to them. Or if you know of any candidates that are interested in working that already have the certifications, we welcome them as well. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay, awesome. So some great jobs out there for people in our community. Thank you so much. next proclamation, Getting Back to Children, is for Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. And we have Ben Rose, our DSS director, and Jovetta Whitfield, one of our assistant directors. And I don't think I see Ann here. Okay. So, Jovetta, don't hide.
She can't talk tonight, so she's trying to be.
Okay, well, we can still, we won't make you talk. Okay. So I will read this proclamation, and then we would love to entertain comments from you, our disappearing DSS director. Durham Board of County Commissioners Proclamation, Child Abuse Prevention Month 2019. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets, and whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas in Durham County, 2,750 children were referred for child abuse, neglect, and dependency in fiscal year 2018, 1 year. And 1,246 children were substantiated that were needed services for abuse, neglect, or dependency in Durham County alone in 2018. And whereas child abuse and neglect in a community responsibility is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community, and whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children to ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare community providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now, therefore, I, Wendy Jacobs, Chair of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April of 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Durham County and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. This, the 8th day of April, 2019, Wendy Jacobs, Chair, Durham Board of County Commissioners. So thank you, Ben and Jovetta.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs and Board and County Manager and County Attorney. We come here every year doing this, but we really want to emphasize the importance of the community in this resolution, because this is a problem that we cannot solve without community support and community partnerships that we really do enjoy. And we talk about prevention a lot more lately, which is probably a good thing. I have a vision to one day in the future bring you a child abuse prevention plan for our community. And this ties in with a lot of the work that we're doing with resiliency and the ACEs task force that Commissioner Reckhow is leading, and the Families First Prevention Act that is hopefully forthcoming to North Carolina in the near future. We're hoping they will adopt that federal legislation so we can have more funding for prevention services. This is really getting to be a key factor. The quicker we can get to kids that are at risk and put in services, we can prevent that costly service of foster care that really is really choking our court systems and putting a lot of strain on our staff. So I'm here wearing red, but I'm promoting wearing blue, so multifaceted with my colors tonight. And we really appreciate the county commissioners and the county management's support of the services that we do. And we really thank all our partners. Just as a quick note, there are certain symptoms of child abuse that I think everyone should be aware of, things to look for and recognize. If a citizen wants to make a report of child abuse or neglect, they should do so even if they think they may be wrong. It's very important to make that report and let us put it through the screening process to see if we need to intervene. Some common symptoms of child abuse can include running away, admission of abuse, aggression, fearful of physical contact, patches of missing hair, self-destructive behaviors, unexplained recurring physical injuries, inability to adequately explain injuries, attempts to hide injuries, long-sleeve clothing, for example, in the summertime, and fear of being examined even by a medical professional. And these are just a few of potential signs of child abuse that we want the public to be aware. And if you really suspect something is going on, please give us a call at 560-8424, correct, to make a report of child abuse and neglect. And we look forward to continuing to serve this community with these services and work with our partners to really bring forth some prevention ideas. We have a very active community child protection team that is chaired by Christy Mallett, who is taking that next step to really become a big advocate for child abuse prevention and child abuse services. So I'm looking forward, enjoying working with her, and looking forward to bringing some things from that as well, too. And is Jovetta writing something down? Yes. The Pinwheels event. So it's April 27th at 11 a.m. at the Family Fun Park in Durham. This is the one done by, I believe, the Family Exchange Center. And I believe there's a Pinwheels event this Sunday as well, too, at Back Road by Prevent Child Abuse, North Carolina. So you can find those events at their websites as well, too. And thank you again for your time and your support.
Thank you so much, and to all the DSS staff who work in the child welfare department, working to support families and also prevent child abuse and support families and do some of the hard investigation work. I just want to follow up on those. If you could send us information about those tips that you just shared.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so we can help educate the community, and also the events. I think the event is 2 o'clock at American Tobacco Campus on Sunday.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Thank you again so much.
Thank you very much.
Leadership. The rain is good.
I guess I can't see you. Huh? Good job, man.
Our next proclamation is for Durham Reentry Week, which is April 22nd through 26th. And we have Roshana Parker here with us and Demetrius Lyon, who is head of our Reentry Council program. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Hill to please give us the honor of reading it, and then we'd love to hear from both of you. Well, it looks like there's more than 2 of you, so hear from you as well, Director of the Coalition for Nonviolent Durham. Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Durham Board of County Commissioners Proclamation, Durham Reentry Week 2019. Whereas more than 700 Durham County residents return to our community from state and federal prisons, and nearly 8,000 cycle through our local detention facility annually. And whereas Durham County government and its Board of County Commissioners have been supporting reentry and rehabilitation efforts in Durham County for more than 28 years. And whereas a effective reentry programs offer the change for a better life to those who return from our nation's corrections facilities. And whereas it is up to all of us working together to emphasize the importance of these programs and policies that make such a positive and lasting difference, not only to the individuals served, but to the communities in which they return. And whereas over the last 9 years, the Department of Justice has partnered with state, local, and tribal agencies, as well as national organizations to support hundreds of reentry programs across the country. Yet, the demand for effective reentry programs continues to remain high. And whereas in an effort to highlight the important work of these services, the governor has designated April 22nd through the 26th, 2019 as Reentry Week, and has called upon communities across the state to plan activities. And whereas the Durham County Board of County Commissioners joins this effort to highlight the value of local reentry programs and calls upon the community to support their work. The investments we make today through resources we dedicate and the enthusiasm we generate will greatly benefit the returning citizens and overall public safety in Durham County. Now, therefore, I, Wendy Jacobs, Chair of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham County Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd through the 26th, 2019 as Durham Reentry Week in Durham County, and urge all citizens to join in recognizing how important it is to help justice-involved individuals positively transition into becoming law-abiding and productive members of society. This, the 8th day of April 2019. Wendy Jacobs, Chair, Durham Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill, and thank you, Roshana. If you could just introduce everyone who's with you as well today.
Thank you so much for having us. I am Roshana Parker, Assistant Director at the Criminal Justice Resource Center. I have Mr. Demetrius Lynn, who is the Local Reentry Council Coordinator here in Durham. And then we also have Mr. Ben Haas, who is the Executive Director of the Religious Coalition for Nonviolent Durham. We appreciate you having us this evening. Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you to the other commissioners, County Manager, and County Attorney. We appreciate the support that the Commission and the county in general has always given to the work of the Criminal Justice Resource Center in our work to assist returning citizens and those that are justice involved. Just a little history of some of the work that we've been doing through the Local Reentry Council. The Local Reentry Council in Durham was funded December of 2016 by the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. And since that time, we have received countless partnerships across the county with agencies, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations to support the work of trying to provide services and support for individuals returning to the community from jails and prisons. The work has been a little challenging, but very rewarding when we see individuals receive the services and supports that they need back in the community. Several of the things that we've done over the last 2.5 years after the creation of the Reentry Council, we've had countless reentry fairs, we've had employment workshops, we've had a numerous amount of events and partnered with organizations to continue the work at the community level. There have been initiatives federally, at the state level, but locally is where we're really trying to make a difference here with the individuals that are returning to the Durham community. So with the week of April 22nd through the 26th being determined Durham Reentry Week, we have planned 3 events, and the Religious Coalition also has several events planned. So I will let Demetrius talk about the events that the Local Reentry Council is planned, and then Mr. Haas will talk about what the Religious Coalition will provide during that week.
Can you, does the mic, can you give the mic?
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Great. Thank you, County Commissioner, County Manager, everybody. Thank you for having us here and support the efforts that we're dealing with reentry and just involved individuals. Our events that we have coming up for the week of April the 22nd through the 26th. On Tuesday, April the 23rd at the Criminal Justice Resource Center, we do a community business recognition. With this recognition, we will recognize a few businesses through the Durham County community have been instrumental in helping just involved individuals employment and helping get back into society and being active members of society. We want to take this day and this time. It's going to be Tuesday, April 23rd, from 2 to 4 p.m. We definitely want everybody to come out, be a part of what we have to do, and witness what we're doing. Also on Thursday, April the 25th, from 2 to 5 at the Criminal Justice Resource Center, we would do the partnership with the City of Durham Innovation Team. We're going to do the DEAR, which stands for Durham Expansion and Restorations. We're trying to help individuals who don't know about getting their license back. We want to give them the opportunity to come in there and apply with the DEAR program, try to receive assistance as far as getting their license back, getting their license restored. Also, at the same time, we're going to use the GED classroom in the Criminal Justice Resource to let individuals go in and register for the program, and also to check and see if their license been restored, or just to use the computers for any other assistance that they may need as far as for the individuals for that day. Also, that evening on Thursday, April the 25th at 7 p.m., we will partner with the Religious Coalition for Nonviolent Durham as they present the welcome home, the homecoming event. But the homecoming event is more or less the individuals. We are welcoming the individuals back into the community of Durham that were incarcerated. We're doing a big event. We have individuals come out and speak about reentry, how reentry has worked for them, the things they have been through, how they plan on moving forward. A lot of people there will have testimonies talking about how reentry worked for them, the efforts that don't work, and it's very touching. Last year was the first year we did it. This will be our second annual year of doing it, and I think a lot of people should come out just to see how impactful reentry has been as far as helping everybody get acclimated back in. Those are our events for the week, and once again, I want to thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much. And Ben?
Yeah, it's good to be here with Roshana and Demetrius. I'll say, as someone who works with the faith community and the nonprofit community, there could be no better place than Durham to partner in this work. It's a partnering place, and you've made it that way. I just want to say that last year at Religious Coalition, we looked around, and we realized that for us, after 15 years of working with the Durham County Criminal Justice Resource Center, your Criminal Justice Resource Center, we had nearly 100 community members in 20 support circles across 16 congregations living in mutual friendship with 24 returning neighbors who'd come home from long-term incarceration over the previous year. And all that community of surprising friends that your support helped bring into being looked like a good reason for a celebration. In other words, as we've done for 27 years with our annual Vigil Against Violence, the coalition had really good reason to join with the LRC and offer up a space on behalf of this entire Durham community, with all the breadth of our civic institutions and with all the depth our spiritual communities can bring to bear, and to say that in Durham, as easy as it is to forget, our Durham does not forget who our people are. Every single time one of ours kills one of ours, we are going to mourn. And every single time one of our own causes harm and we send them away and they paid the high price that we put on their debt, and they bring their human possibility home, we are going to celebrate. And that's what we're doing in your name, and I'd say in God's name on Reentry Week, and especially at that homecoming celebration on the 25th over just down the street at First Presbyterian Church. We'd really love to have you there, and I hope that you'll leave that night with what you leave with tonight, which is the sense of weighty responsibility that we have to be the community that nearly 800 brothers and sisters are coming home to in Durham this year. We're glad to be a part of that, and we're glad for the environment that you create to allow us and so many people of faith to be part of.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Roshana, Demetrius, Ben, and everybody that you work with for all the important work that you do for people in our community. And if you can, that's a fantastic list of activities for that week, and we want to make sure that we help get those on our announcements, get them on our website. So
Get them on our own calendar.
yeah, get them on our own calendars as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you again for having us.
you. Go ahead. Thank
Thank you.
you. Heard from any of the folks?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, there was a conference, reentry conference in Greensboro that I attended, and so that Rashana, and the place was packed. They were not accepting anyone else, and I mean, it was so many people there that I didn't think I was going to be able to get in because I didn't register early. But it was just that many people that are concerned about this issue.
Okay, our next resolution is to support the 2020 census. And I know Deborah Craig-Gray, you have brought this forward to us. So I'm going to read it and then ask comments. Durham Board of County Commissioners resolution supporting resolution of supporting for the 2020 census. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America requires the U.S. Census Bureau to conduct a count of the population and provide an opportunity for local governments to help shape the foundation of our society. And whereas Durham County government is committed to working with the entire community to ensure every resident is counted in the upcoming 2020 census. And whereas in 2010, Durham County had a census response rate of only 75%, but in 2020, we have a goal of 82%. And whereas the census brings $675 billion in federal funds to communities across the country for programs that support highways, healthcare, affordable housing, community development, home energy assistance, nutrition for women, infants and children, education, and more. And whereas specifically North Carolina annually receives $16 billion, or $1,623 per capita for the largest federal assistance program because of census-driven derived data. And whereas census data determines the number of seats each house will have in the U.S. House of Representatives, in addition to the redistricting of state legislatures, county and city councils, and voting districts. And whereas the census creates hundreds of thousands of jobs across our nation, thereby improving local economies, and whereas those who work for the Census Bureau must take a lifetime oath to protect confidentiality and ensure that data identifying respondents of their households must not be released or shared. And whereas the 2020 census will feature new technology that will allow residents to answer census questions online, in addition to by phone or on paper. And whereas shortly a united voice from business, government, educators, nonprofits, faith leaders, media, and others will work to develop and market the 2020 census across the entire community to raise overall awareness and to increase participation among all populations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Durham County Board of Commissioners do hereby support the ideals and goals of the 2020 census and will market and share 2020 census information to encourage increased participation, partner with local stakeholders to support efforts for county each person living in Durham to achieve an accurate and complete count, and will work to raise awareness about programs and services that are made possible by the census. Be it further resolved that we, the members of the Durham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby set a census county goal of 82% or higher for the 2020 census. Wendy Jacobs, Chair; James Hill, Vice Chair; Heidi Carter, Brenda Howerton, and Ellen Reckow, Commissioners. So thank you, Deborah, for helping to lead this effort.
Thank you so much. As you know from our earlier report, we will get our resolution here this evening. Next week, the City Council is scheduled to approve a similar one. We will be working with the community to pull together our complete count committee. We have already started doing some soft marketing in the area. We've got video running on our lobby screens. We are doing some social media, and we really want to make a very intense push this time to reach our hard to count and our underserved residents. We're going to try to employ some different strategies, much like the census has updated its work with the opportunity to fill out your form online. We're going to do some different things as well. I bet I'll see each one of you in a commercial that we'll pull together. But again, we just want to really reach out and let the community know how important this is for all of us.
Thank you, Deborah. And please count on all of us and everyone in the community that the census is so important for the funding that we get and the representation that we have. So thank you. Yes, 82%.
82.
Yeah.
Got it coming.
Yep. Okay, we have a resolution in support of funding to meet the mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder service needs of the citizens of Durham County. We have Rob Robinson here, who is the Director of Alliance Health. And I'm not sure if you have anyone else here, but anyone else, please, you're welcome to invite up with you or recognize. And Commissioner Carter, please give us the honors of the resolution.
All right, Durham Board of County Commissioners resolution in support of funding to meet the mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder service needs of the citizens of Durham County. Whereas Durham County recognizes that with appropriate services and supports, individuals and families dealing with mental illness and substance use disorders can achieve recovery, and that those with intellectual developmental disabilities can live productive lives in our communities. And whereas the amount of resources needed for such services and supports are increasing due to North Carolina's increasing population, and whereas Durham County is a member of Alliance Health, formerly known as Alliance Behavioral Health Care, a public local management entity, managed care organization responsible for providing system management and oversight for approximately 471,000 Medicaid-covered and uninsured North Carolinians across 4 counties. And whereas, consistent with the expectations of the North Carolina General Assembly and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Alliance's Board of Directors has developed, and Alliance's intent is to implement, a comprehensive reinvestment plan benefiting the citizens of Durham County with service enhancement, including housing initiatives and innovative evidence-based and crisis services, as part of a focused effort to reduce unnecessary emergency department admissions and to divert people from our criminal justice system. And whereas while the North Carolina General Assembly passed mental health reform legislation in 2001 with the intent of improving clinical services and deinstitutionalization, state funding for North Carolina's behavioral health care system has become inconsistent and inadequate for more than 17 years since this legislation became law. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly has reduced state funding for behavioral health services, known as single stream funding, by more than $458 million, including a more than $67 million reduction in funding to Alliance over the past 4 years, while requiring the LME MCOs to continue offering the same level of state-funded services as before such reductions. And whereas, despite these significant single-stream funding reductions, Alliance has continued serving the uninsured and underinsured using the remaining state funds and portions of its savings intended to be used for implementing its reinvestment plan. And whereas, while it is Alliance's intent to implement its comprehensive reinvestment plan, enhancing services for the citizens of Durham County, State single-stream funding has been reduced for 4 consecutive years, and such continued reductions have forced Alliance to eliminate or halt work on items from its reinvestment plan. And whereas Durham County has continued to fund Alliance with county dollars to supplement services to our residents, but we are concerned that additional reductions in behavioral health funding by the state may increase the need for the local allocation and place additional strain on other county services such as emergency medical services, jails, and other social service resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Durham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby request that the North Carolina General Assembly stop cutting Alliance Health state single-stream funding so that such funds can be utilized to strengthen access to healthcare services for the mental health, intellectual, developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder needs of uninsured and underinsured Durham County citizens, and allow Alliance Health to continue to utilize its savings to reinvest in enhanced, innovative services in our communities rather than mandating that such funds be used to replace previously reduced state funding. This 8th day of April 2019 with places for all of our signatures.
Thank you. There's a lot of important information in that resolution, and Rob, we welcome your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Commissioner Carter, Rob Robinson, CEO with Alliance Health. We are the LME MCO serving Wake, Durham, Johnston, and Cumberland County. We serve about 235,000 people with Medicaid and similar amount for those that are uninsured, underinsured in those 4 counties. I do have with me Cynthia Benet, who's our chairperson. The resolution stated everything it needed to say. This is the 4th year of cuts to our state single-stream funding. State funding is used to serve individuals who are uninsured, underinsured, so essentially the most vulnerable and needy citizens in the state. For us, we're approaching $70 million. Across the state, it's $500 million. We've been fortunate that we've been using our savings to fund the cuts, right? And so we're at the point that we're not going to have any savings left. And if you want to see what happens to a community when you run out of funding for mental health services, you will see your EDs, jails, homeless shelters fill up rather quickly. It's getting to be at a place where they've got to start taking action soon, and we appreciate your commitment and support in signing that resolution, asking them to stop the cut, because it's real money and it has real impact on people. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to us, and it ties into some of the things we've been talking about tonight about supporting parents, child abuse, people reentering our community. These are all vulnerable people that need to have access to mental health care. So thank you.
I'm just going to make a brief statement. My name is Cynthia Benet, and I am a parent of a young adult with severe mental illness who was previously in the Medicaid system. And I'm a healthcare professional, and I've been serving on the Alliance Board since 2013 for the past 2 years as the board chair. I have to admit I wasn't going to make any comment this evening because I felt the resolution was pretty comprehensive, and I knew that Rob Robinson could represent us well. But I think it's really important to emphasize how critical the situation is becoming in the state for our most vulnerable populations. And as a parent myself who's seen what happens when people don't have access to care, and as a board member and parent with friends and community members that reach out to me constantly about trying to access services for their loved ones, the cuts to the single stream funding have reached a critical point. And I do not believe that our General Assembly is appreciative of the impact it's having on our communities yet. What is not apparent to most folks who hear sound bites about savings that the LME MCOs have is that most of the money is tied up in restricted funds because we are at an at-risk organization, and those restricted funds are mandated by state law. And the single stream funding impacts those that don't have Medicaid, so it's for the uninsured and underinsured, and even those with private insurance don't always have access to services that they need. So it's really important that as community members, we advocate with our legislature to stop these funding cuts because they're putting all of our vulnerable citizens at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to just ask staff if we can make sure to send this to all the members of our delegation. Monica, thank you so much. And did you want to say something, Commissioner Recco?
Well, I was at a meeting much of today on the possible restructuring of the LMEs as related to care and the institution of tailored and I would just say that there was an excellent resource person there from the Institute of Government who gave an overview of the history of reform since the early 2000s. And he really did emphasize this point, that at this point, we're at a situation where Medicaid is providing 80% of all the funding by our LMEs. And that is so high because the state has backed down on their. And so we really have a crisis in the sense that without Medicaid expansion, and that would have helped. Without it, we have a significant population, as described, who fall through the cracks and are not eligible, even though they may be indigent. And so it is a huge issue for our community and communities all across.
I think the estimate, Rob, maybe you can correct me, we have about 50,000 people in Durham that would be eligible for Medicaid expansion that are not insured.
That's about right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And to Commissioner Reckal's point, we've got about $500 million to serve for Medicaid, about 235,000 individuals. For the uninsured, we estimate about 240,000, and we get about 80 million, right? So it's not even, it's discrepancy. I mean, you talk about the politics. I'm not getting into Medicaid expansion politics. What I do know is there's people not being served and being harmed because there's not services or funding available to serve them appropriately. Medicaid's good service, there's a good benefit there. We can do some things for the Medicaid population. It's the people that have nothing, and those are the ones that need the help the most, right?
Thank you so much for bringing this to us, and we will pass this on to our representatives.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. I was going to keep it. I liked it so much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great job, Rob.
The folder.
Probably have an envelope. Just
Sorry, I was trying. That too.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and our last but not least resolution tonight, Commissioner Howerton is going to share with us for the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers resolution to promote investments in young children and families from prenatal to 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick thing for the public, that if for anyone that has not seen it, there's a great special on unctv.org, and Anita Graham is talking about adverse childhood experience all across the state. So that might be something that you want to tune in and listen to, because what we're talking about tonight has a lot to do with the adverse childhood experience in families. So bear with me with this. It's kind of long, but as I read it, you'll see how it connects to, even though it's a national perspective, but it's also local perspective. It just kind of wraps it all in. So Durham Board of County Commissioners resolution, the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers resolution to promote investments in young children and families from prenatal to 3, whereas counties routinely provide an array to be of, got the of in there, of programs and services to an estimated 13 million children ages birth to 3 in the United States. And in 2017, about 29% of counties had more than a quarter of all children living in poverty. And whereas the most rapid period of brain development occurs within the first 5 years of life, the brain developing faster from birth to age 3 than at any later period of life, building the foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. And when toddlers receive what their growing brains need, they become healthy children who are confident, empathetic, and ready for school and life. And programs and policies that support healthy development from birth to age 3 result in better social, economic, and health outcomes and build a more productive workforce that strengthens our economy now and in the future. And whereas parents are a child's most important caregiver and play the lead role in their child's healthy development, at the same time, communities and governments can effectively provide families with an array of comprehensive support at an especially critical time. And whereas programs and policies should start early to ensure healthy beginnings at birth, support families with infants and toddlers, and make high-quality child care and learning environments more accessible and affordable to all. And whereas high-quality child care is often unavailable or unaffordable for parents who need it, and many families are not connected to networks or early childhood support that can offer guidance and confidence to navigate the earliest months and years of their children's lives. And Durham County and all counties take pride in our responsibility to protect and enhance the health, welfare, and safety of residents in cost-effective ways, especially for the children under the age of 3 in our area. And whereas research shows that when we invest in the first 3 years of a child's life and the returns for the community are the highest, and we can reduce the need for more expensive interventions later. And whereas research also shows that high-quality early childhood development programs can deliver an annual return of up to 13% per child on upfront costs through better outcomes in education, health, employment, and social behaviors in the decades that follow. And economists attribute local economic growth and prosperity to high-quality early child care programs. And whereas the National Association of Counties and other national organizations joined the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers, a project of the Pritzker Children's Initiative, in a groundbreaking partnership to work with communities and states across the country to focus on early childhood development for young children from birth to 3. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the members of the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby sign on to the call of action to prioritize and invest in prenatal to 3 efforts that promote a healthy start at birth, support for families with infants and toddlers, and high-quality care and learning environments and utilize the resources available through NACO and the NCIP, which is a National Association Collaborative. Be a champion for change by prioritizing and investing in high-quality infant toddler programs so children, families, and communities can thrive. Designate an early childhood leader with authority to coordinate and maximize county services to optimize child and family outcomes and leverage additional resources. Convene or draw on a diverse team of leaders, decision makers, and community stakeholders committed to early childhood investment. Take an inventory of local programs and services for children and families. Create a plan with measurable outcomes to implement, shift, and enhance evidence-based approaches that promote a comprehensive and equitable continuum of care that begins before birth and spans into adulthood, with specific recommendations for children under 3 and their families. Leverage local, state, and federal investments and explore innovative funding strategies and revenue streams to promote early childhood programming and promote prenatal to 3 policies, best practices, and cross-coordination to improve child and family outcomes, as well as service delivery and efficacy in government through streamlined process. This 8th day of April 2019, Wendy Jacobs, Chair, James Hill, Vice Chair, Heidi Carter, Brenda Howerton, and Ellen Reichow. So passing this state and national resolution for the county, it's not just that we talk about it. As the kids say, we be about it. This is the bullets of their being resolved, is this board is looking to have someone assigned to make these things happen, to be on top of it. Because we can pass all the resolutions in the world, but if we don't have someone managing it and being on top of it, it's just talk. So we are about it, not just talk about it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Howerton. So if you paid close attention, there were some concrete actions in the resolution. After now, therefore, be it resolved, and our board is fully committed to moving forward with those commitments that are in the resolution and taking all the work that we're doing with pre-K and ACES task force and a lot of the work that we do in the county, taking it to the next level. Commissioner Carter.
I was just wondering what you all would think about adding an additional be it resolved to this that says something along the lines of, and be it also resolved that Durham County commits additional resources to increase the county's capacity to implement the goals of the resolution.
I think that this is a national resolution that we're supposed to kind of replicate.
Just replicate.
But we can certainly give the manager direction. Now, once, that at this point, we can say to Mr. Manager, we're asking you to help us implement the resolution as well as what Commissioner Carter has suggested.
Once it's adopted and approved, NACO, National Association of Counties, want to know so that we're in the queue in case they have tools and resources that Durham can get. So they want us to notify them once it's approved.
And we did at the work session discuss, we actually asked the manager to put some additional funds in the budget related to helping 0 to 3, which is the gap in our service.
And to have somebody other than Drew Cummings
We don't
coordinating.
so we don't give him one more task to do.
All of our who has stepped up to the plate, but and as well as Linda Chappelle and Child Care Services, but to really do the work that we need to do in terms of our own staff. So that is the next step, Mr. Manager, and we'll just make sure. I guess we can work with Monica in making sure that NACO gets a copy of this resolution, and I guess it probably would be good as well to send it to all representatives, our state and federal representatives as well.
Especially state and federal.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for everyone for sitting through our many resolutions this evening, but they're all important.
Well, we bookended. We had child-oriented ones at the front and at the back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Made them stay.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we have our consent agenda. Are there any items that commissioners would like to pull from the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, seeing there are no items to be approved, we're voting on items 19-0116 through 19-0164. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent items are unanimously approved. Okay, we have some business items this evening. We have a report from members of, actually, you're not really members of the Durham Women's Commission. That's what it says on here, but we have some members of the Women's Commission, but we have other members as well. But we invite you all to come up and introduce yourselves, and we'd love to hear the report that you have for us today. Welcome. Oh, okay. So you're going to present here, if you want to. That's fine. Wherever you're comfortable. Wherever you're comfortable. I know we have some students here. Please introduce yourselves.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners and our guests. My name is Sarah Bausch, and we representing the Durham Women's Commission with Milicia Tedder, Dr. Michelle Laws, and Brianna Van.
Can you pull that?
Apparently, I need to put the microphone next to my mouth.
Thank
I apologize. And boy, do I have an opportunity for you guys to be about supporting children and families in Durham. So I was so excited to hear Commissioner Howerton talk about that, because I was like, have we got an opportunity for you? So the Durham County Women's Commission serves as the official advisory body on the status of women to the Durham County Board of Commissioners. We strive to educate the community and advise on issues relating to social and economic conditions of women in the community. With me is Ms. Jada Hester. She's a student at NC State University. She's here to present her research. And to give you some quick background, we're here to talk to you about CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It's an international mechanism that outlines women's fundamental human rights. Since 1990,
we have approved.
You have approved, yes, you have approved it. You passed a resolution endorsing this on September 11th, 2017. In support of CEDAW, the North Carolina Coalition for CEDAW members, which includes the Durham County Women's Commission, Women NC, and a host of other women-led organizations in North Carolina, Women NC supported research conducted by university students using the CEDAW framework to study issues of pay equity, women's health, and women's education in Durham County. One such study conducted by Ms. Hester about workplace gender inequality is called Workplace Gender Inequality and Discrimination in Durham is what brings us here today.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Great. My name is Jada Hester. I am a junior in Business and International Studies at North Carolina State University, as my lovely introducer said. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the racialized wage gap among women in Durham, North Carolina. So I know that might sound a bit like a loaded phrase, but basically my study sought to look at the intersectionality of the gender wage gap. So looking at the interconnectedness of different social characterizations such as race, gender, religion, and other things in that vein. So if I refer to the gap rather generally later on in my brief presentation, just know that I am referring to the racialized wage gap among women and not the broader gender wage gap. So the objectives of my presentation were to look at the level of current awareness of the wage gap in Durham, North Carolina. I chose Durham in particular because, of course, it was the first county and city to ratify CEDAW. In addition to that, it has one of the lowest gender wage gaps in the nation, which is definitely something to be proud of. So I wanted to expand on that from an intersectional standpoint. And I looked to explore the disparity between non-white and white women instead of the disparity between men and women. And then, of course, to expand on that, I wanted to do more than just identify the gap, but also identify why it matters and why it's something that we should be concerned about. So identifying personal barriers and challenges that could be associated with the gap that is endured by women. So my methodology, I started with a literature review that looked at comprehensive statewide and national findings, and looking at those different effects and barriers that could be associated with the gap, and then looking to see if those were applicable to Durham women, and that was something that they were suffering from as well. I then conducted an online survey. It was distributed to about 650 working women in Durham with almost a 10% response rate, or around 62. This is a demographic breakdown of my survey respondents. It's important to note here that it's about 50% white and 50% non-white, and then it was broken down further by sector, so 50% public, 50% public sector, 50% private sector, and then by career level, so about 1/3 entry-level career, 1/3 mid-level career, and 1/3 senior-level career. So this is one of the questions that I had in my survey. As you can see, it's very simplistic and easy to read. Before taking the survey, I was aware that there is a wage gap between non-white and white women. You'll see that 59.7% of women agreed with this statement. And so what I was able to kind of glean from this, as well as additional comments, is that there doesn't seem to be an issue with awareness. However, if you look at this question right here, has the wage gap between non-white and white women been discussed in any way within your organization? 82.3% said no. So it doesn't seem to be a lack of awareness, but rather a lack of action, attribute to the problem that lies here. So additional findings, this is a breakdown that was based off of my literature review. The 4 main barriers that I decided to focus on were childcare, student debt, physical health, and mental health. And in 3 of 4 of those categories, more non-white respondents identified with these barriers than white respondents. And then the greatest self-reported barrier that I found was retirement, and again, more non-white than white women identified with that barrier. And I also thought it was interesting to note that in terms of the women that identified no personal barriers or reported no personal barriers in any way attribute to the gap, there was more white women than non-white women there. So what were women saying? I think it's really important that you look exactly at what women were saying from the mouth of the horse, if you will. So I'd just like to read one of these quotations that really summed up the theme of my research and the theme of my findings, which is the first one on the top here. I hear all the time about the white men on my team and that they make more than the white women. That doesn't take into account the fact that all the white women are in positions higher than women of color. So that was a Hispanic senior level private sector woman, and she was speaking on the situation within her corporation. So the key takeaways here is that although there's not a lack of awareness, there does seem to be a lack of action being taken by employers to address this issue, and that non-white women seem to be experiencing more difficulties than white women that could be alleviated possibly if the gap was addressed. And then generally I found that white women tend to focus more on the general gender wage gap, while non-white women tend to focus more on the racialized wage gap. So exactly what I want to be done about this. It's one thing just to present research and go on about it, but it's another thing altogether to want true progress to be made in addressing this issue. So I have comprised a 35-page report, which you can find on womennc.org. However, I have 3 of what I think are the most relevant and easily applicable policy recommendations here for you tonight. There's 9 in total, but I wanted to capitalize on the middle one there, so encouraging Durham corporations to redefine value statements and company practices to reflect intersectional beliefs. I've found that the power of word, even in something as simple as a mission statement, can do a lot to encourage working women that they have support within the workplace. So I would encourage the Board of Commissioners to reach out to the Durham Chamber of Commerce, possibly the members of the Durham County delegation of the General Assembly in the House and the Senate, to go beyond Title IX, all-inclusive anti-discrimination laws, and encourage future businesses that want to do business here in Durham to have those intersectional beliefs directly represented within the mission statement, and also to work to incentivize current businesses to adopt the same practices, in particular reaching out to women in the workplace and organizations that support women in the workplace and women of color in the workplace. My main focus here is just that women need to support women, and that true progression in shrinking the gender wage gap, just like shrinking the racialized wage gap, is intersectional in nature in order for it to be valid and sustainable. I'd really like to thank my mentor who came tonight, Leslie Turner from the Research Triangle Institute, the Global Gender Center there, as well as Beth Dagan, the founder of Women NC, and the representatives from the Durham Women's Commission for supporting me in my research. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jada. Very impressive, the research that you have been doing, and thank you for all of your support and being mentors. It would be really interesting to look at Durham County staff to see what's happening within our own staff. I don't know, Mr. Manager, have we ever looked at, I know that we have, I think, a majority female staff, and we have a majority people of color staff in Durham County, and I don't know, certainly women.
No, we've not disaggregated the data down to this level. So.
It would be interesting to do that.
Indeed.
And then we can because what I'm assuming is that we would be probably a role model. We have a lot of women of color in leadership in Durham County government, so it would be good to know, so that because we need to practice what we preach and be a role model for others. Commissioner Greco.
So I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I find it interesting because one of the biggest issues you bring up is the whole issue of student debt. Mm-hmm. And obviously that is getting worse as tuitions go up, and that's why we're actually trying to promote the fact that Durham County does fund tuition assistance directly for Durham Technical Community College, mm-hmm. where a graduate from any high school or even a homeschooled student can access funds that will largely defray tuition. In addition, we have the middle college high school, where students can start to get college credit in high school and get a leg up. But the bottom line is a student can go Durham Tech, get an associate's degree, and then transfer with 2 years of credit to a four-year college and graduate with much less debt than they would have had And so, you know, looking at ways to get the word out about that. Because I think that when I look at where young people are today and read about it, I'm seeing more and more that this debt is a real problem. It leads to young people not necessarily being able to purchase a house and do other things because of this burden. And so we need to do all we can to help students know that there are good alternatives that will give them a great education. Students from Durham Tech transfer to some of the best colleges in this and beyond. So sky's the limit, and you can leave without any debt at all, at least for those first 2 years. And oftentimes, when the students transfer, they're often getting at that point to the four-year college. Really does help.
Mr. Howerton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this report. And hi, Beth, how are you? Good to see you again. You know, this is such an important issue. You know, women, I read somewhere where you said that women work more, African-American women or women of color, however you want to phrase it, but work more hours but get less pay. That is consistent in our country, and it's interesting that it's taken on Durham with this one. When you see the highest impact is Black mothers or brown mothers with children, and they're working 2 and 3 jobs. And how I know? Because I had to do it. I was with 4 children, and I worked 3 jobs. It doesn't leave you quality time as a mother to take care of your children and to teach them the things that they need to know. So you have to leave your children with someone, whether it's daycare, and most of the time the mothers can't even afford daycare. So the bill that I saw in New Jersey, and the bill that I did share with our congressman, and he said we could not get it into North Carolina, but the bill was about women being able to recoup monies that they weren't paid over a period of time. So I'm interested in seeing what comes out of an analysis that we find out with the county and where women are, whether where Black women, where white women are, where women of color, how are they being paid compared to men? If people are doing the same job, they should be getting the same pay. So I'm there with you. So thank you for doing this work, and I hope we can do something that will help to forward what it is that you're doing.
Any other comments? I was curious, you mentioned that Durham has the lowest racial, was it the lowest gender? Gender. What is Durham's compared to, I mean, do you have that information?
Yes. So it is nationally, I believe, around 87, maybe. And I know Durham's is 94.
Wow.
So that is one of the reasons why I chose Durham, because obviously something is working. Not quite to the degree that we want it to work, but something is working. But I did see, like you were saying, Commissioner Howerton, I did see that disparity between racial standpoints. And I actually, when I delve into my research a little bit more, I found a pretty prominent amount of information on the Black and white population, but not a lot on the Latino or the Native or the Asian population. In fact, that was my lowest respondents level. But there are organizations right here in the county and in the city of Durham for that cause. And so I think, like I said, there doesn't seem to be a lack of awareness. There seems to be a lack of action. And perhaps that's because there's a lack of direction of exactly what we need to do to address this issue because it's so multifaceted, as you can see.
So the planning department has those, they show the disparities between the income. So they may have some of that information. You might want to check with the planning department. City County Planning Department may have some of that already.
So do you actually know what the wage, if you break it down, what the exact number is for?
I do not have it memorized, but it is in my report. I did
Okay.
record that in my report.
Okay, great. So we need to look at your report.
Yes.
Okay.
For Durham, you have that information from the 62 people who responded to your survey, or just from other research that's been done at the county or the city level, or?
No, it is for, it's nationally, but then I have a breakdown of different racial, I have percentage breakdowns from additional racial components from my survey respondents, yes. Does that make sense?
So you do know what the wage gap between people of color and white people, women in particular, I guess we're talking about here, for Durham County is, from your, at least from your respondents, your 62 respondents? You asked about wages?
No. No. It is in regards to their experiences with these particular barriers.
Right.
Okay,
And that
so
was
this
very
is-
interesting.
Yeah. This is more about perceptions and how people.
And ramifications.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Commissioner Hill.
I saw a study, I don't know who published it, but it stated that 43% of men just said, what are you talking about? I don't get it. I have no idea what you're talking about. You talking to me? You know, I don't see a problem. And that kind of ignorance is awful, right? Because when women don't earn more, families don't earn more, and children don't do as well. So everyone needs to if they're doing the same work, needs to earn the same pay. And a quick question: when we break down these numbers, I know you look at racialized things for women, but do you also do it for men and then compare?
So I did not, and that was something that I considered doing from the onset, but this was a very limited study for me. I probably conducted this research over the course of 3 or 4 months, with a budget of $0. So I was not able to do that, but however, I do speak on in terms of my policy limitations in my report, that's something that I would want to expand on, because I do think it's important to see that other side of the perspective in order to move forward in terms of knowing what to do, because perception is on both sides. And I guess the way those perceptions are received has a greater impact on how we address this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. And talking about what we've been talking about tonight with the resolutions about children and families, the latest, Gail, North Carolina health rankings, do you remember the number of children in Durham that are living in single-parent households? It was shockingly high. It was something like 40%. 41% of children in Durham live in single-parent households. And the national average, I was shocked. The national average is only 20%. So Durham is actually double the national average in terms of children living in single-parent households. So what everybody is saying here is that, the incomes that single mothers are making, single parents are making are very important. So thank you again, and thank you.
Let me ask you one other question. This report that was done by, it's on the website, it was done, the gender wage gap in Durham County. Duke University. So there is a research paper here that
was done. And what it shows is that race, men earnings, women's earnings, and then the wage gap. There's white males, $55,424. White women, $46,452. Wage gap is 29%, with black males, $32,150. Women, $21,415. 31.4% gap. It's got Asian, 65,000. Women, 57. There's 11% gap, and then biracial and others. There's definitely a huge gap. Huge.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is to get an update on the 300 and 500 blocks of East Main Street. And we have Sarah Odio here from Development Finance Institute, Harry Mans.
Hello.
Hi.
That's really tough to follow when I was a junior in college. I could not have given that presentation. So thank you for having us here today. I'm Sarah Odio, Project Manager with the Development Finance Initiative.
Harry Mans, Deputy Director, County Engineering.
I jumped in, you normally. Marcia Parrott couldn't be here today, but she's still on the team, so don't worry about that. So I am going to jump into this. There's a long history on this project. You all have been making decisions for quite a while now. And last Friday, we received all our responses, so we're super excited. But so a solicitation for development partner proposals was released in on January 9th of 2019. This was for the redevelopment of the 300 East Main Block and the 500 East Main Block. You all agreed on a sort of leading development plan that would frame what you're looking for from developers. This was distributed widely. DFI personally directly engaged with 65 qualified developers and some local architects and general contractors with the kind of experience that we're looking for these projects. So these are qualified, experienced developers that we reached out to directly. The solicitation was also posted on the county website and on DFI's website, and it was distributed to registered vendors through the procurement office of Durham County. DFI was available throughout the process to answer questions, provide additional information. Our role here was really to make sure it was clear what the public interests were and what it was that the county was looking for from these proposals. So 9 proposals were received. The majority submitted to redevelop both the 300 and 500 block together. I will sort of rattle off the lead developers here, although these are extensive teams with local architects and local GCs involved, but I will just mention the lead developers. And I will note that all of these groups, at least one of the lead developers is an affordable housing developer. So every proposal submitted is driven by affordable housing. So we have Brinshaw Development Community Housing Partners at DHIC and Blue Heron partnering, Flaherty and Collins Properties, Laurel Street Residential and Zom Living partnering, the NRP Group, Quality of Life Consortium. This includes several groups, including Kettler and T&D Partners, Wynn Companies, and for just the 300 block, we received a proposal from Conifer Real Estate Development. I'll say we are very excited about what we've seen so far, but all of these just came in on Friday. So what we will be doing is evaluating these proposals. And as you can see, and I want to make sure the public knows it's all available still on the website, for this project. I'll leave the link at the end of this presentation. But that evaluation criteria, which was endorsed by the board, basically, number one, which proposal, how does it meet the guiding public interest? And those guiding public interests range from affordable housing concerns, parking, design concerns, as well as service and commercial space provided on East Main. It also looks for sort of a parking solution with some sort of more alternative transportation options included. So all of the proposals will be evaluated according to how they meet these guiding public interests. In addition, we're looking at qualifications and experience. We're looking at proposals and teams that are devoted to meeting the county's minority women in business enterprise goals, which Durham County is about 25% across all categories. We want to check the references from other public-private partnerships that they've done in the past. The optimization of site density. So DFI came forward with a plan that had sort of a conservative estimate, but we were looking for someone to come back and really blow that out and do something incredible on these two sites. I'll say a lot of the proposals do blow out that density. We're looking for proposals, and we're going to evaluate them on the timeline, so how quickly they can move on these projects within the time frame proposed by DFI and the county, and feasibility. So this is really critical, which is you can have a lot of great ideas, and you can put that in your proposal, and 6 months from now come back and say, oh, well, we looked at it in more detail, and actually that doesn't really work. We're going to have to go back and change that, and we can't do what we promised in the proposal. So one of the key things here are your assumptions really reflective of market conditions. Something not shown here is that, you know, we look at these the proposals as a whole, right? DFI and the county staff will be doing this together, and we look at it as a whole. So it's not just, do you check off this point, but do you contribute something greater? We're also have pointed out in the evaluation criteria that there will be sort of additional consideration given to proposals that include public space amenities like public park, public art, and inclusion of a daycare or pre-K space in the 500 or even 300 block if it comes up. So what comes next is that DFI will spend considerable amount of time doing, as fast as we can, but still a lot of time, doing the due diligence. Our due diligence includes, but is not limited to, reviewing the development plans for feasibility. So do these plans comply with the UDO? The financials make sense. We're going to check the references that are included in the proposals, and we'll be requesting any clarifying information from development teams. This process will take about 4 to 6 weeks to conduct this due diligence and evaluate the proposals. The board will have an opportunity in small group meetings to see all of the proposals and all of our due diligence and evaluation of these proposals. And at that point, there will be an opportunity to request additional information from these developers. So are there any questions that you wanted answered that aren't answered with the proposals? County staff, not DFI, will ultimately make a recommendation to the board. And the board will be the ones that will select a partner or partners to move forward. By moving forward, you're not saying, hey, it's you, go, run, do it. You will be directing staff to enter into negotiations for a memorandum of understanding. So this is sort of a preliminary timeline that we've mapped out. As you know from every other timeline you've seen, these are very much subject to change. You know, we could be done with our due diligence in 6 weeks, but the next board meeting is, you know, June 3rd. So we work within that schedule. But we are asking that, you know, in the beginning of the summer, kind of near midsummer, that the board will select a preferred partner. But we want to give you all the time that you need. So what that means is there will be sort of a first meeting in which we'll ask you to review and discuss your preferred partner or partners. But you can always have more time, come back to another meeting if that's what you need. You will then direct staff to enter into these negotiations, as I've noted, and we expect that to take about 3 months. And that MOU is critical to laying out, the terms and the milestones of what will happen during the development agreement period. That development agreement will take a lot longer to negotiate, but a lot of work will be done, both on behalf of the county and the developer or developers during that period. And so that could take 6 to 9 months, although a lot of the proposals are saying, hey, we can move a lot faster, we're ready to go. So that will be one factor in evaluating these proposals. So that's it. I said I would keep it brief. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Sarah, and we're lucky that we're getting such a quick follow-up report, being that all of the deadline was on Friday, and here we are on Monday. So
we wanted to make sure it's all out there for the public ahead of time. So, we're doing this work. We want everyone to know that it's going to take some time to do this properly.
Okay, great. Well, I have some questions, but I will wait until the other commissioners ask their questions. Commissioner Recap.
So among the developers who submitted, and maybe you haven't had to learn this, are you seeing any pattern of them having experience with public-private partnership?
Yes. I will say, just kind of full disclosure, and this is part of the process, these are all developers that we have here that we've been having conversations with. So everybody that's on this list took advantage of this opportunity, whether, emailing us on a regular basis with questions and clarifying questions, or whether meeting one-on-one and discussing kind of what does a county mean by this public interest, XYZ. And so I will say that a lot of them do have that public-private partnership experience, and it's why they're so interested in this, because they see it as a great opportunity.
And do any of them have projects that they've done that include mixed income housing in North Carolina?
Yes, a lot have experience doing mixed income, not necessarily in North Carolina. I'll say that for some of them, this will be the first venture into North Carolina.
Because I actually, it'd be interesting, you don't have to answer this now, but I'd be curious as to whether you recommend that we visit the project.
That could be something that once you see the proposals and see kind of the due diligence, and maybe you get to, I would say that's something you do when you get to, a top 2 or 3 and you really can't decide, then I would definitely recommend doing that.
And then you said that some proposals are kind of blowing the density that we suggested out of the water. So that would have impact in terms of need for additional parking, and if it includes more affordable housing, more subsidy from the county.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
And that will be part of the evaluation.
Yeah.
One of the standards that was set out is can you blow out this density but not require additional public
because
investment?
we already established how much.
Well, that's my point.
So they know that.
So you would be then evaluating whether it has any fiscal impact, any of these.
Yes.
And any first cut information in terms of whether any of them are putting in some of the things that were not required but we considered nice, like daycare center or a grocery store?
Several did, which we're excited about. I'd say with the grocery store, we're going to caution, and you'll see that as we do our due diligence, unless they've got a letter of interest in hand, which I don't believe any do, but I know some have had early conversations. We're hesitant to say that's going to happen, but I know that some of the proposals are exploring that process.
Sounds interesting. I'll look forward to seeing.
It's very exciting.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Carter, I thought I saw your.
I didn't raise my hand, but since you called on me, I would just say that I feel like James and I are really lucky because we got to cut our teeth on 2 agenda items that the county has that seem really noteworthy. And this is one of them. So sort of public-private partnerships, affordable housing, how these things work from the beginning to the end. We've just followed right along, and it's been very instructive and exciting now at this point. And then the other one I wanted to say was light rail, but that's coming up later. We cut our teeth on those, James. Anyway, thanks so much. Look forward to more.
Any other comments or questions?
No, I'll wait for the next conversation.
Commissioner Hill?
Any of these firms shared or partnered by women?
Are any of these firms, sorry, yes,
Okay. Any of these firms shared or partnered by African Americans?
yes.
Latinos?
I don't believe not.
Okay. Thank you.
So in other words, you're going to bring us many applications? 5?
There'll be 9 proposals.
9?
Yeah. And we will help
There-
you.
There are no Latino representation either of in?
Not that I believe at the top. But I'm going to look closely. Part of this, as I said, the evaluation criteria is looking at their minority and women in business enterprise goals. And so part of it is digging into that and taking.
And what's the African American representation?
Off the top of my head, I can't say. But I will make sure that when we meet again, I will break all of that.
Both of those things are important to this.
No.
So this is very exciting that we have gotten 9 groups that are interested in these projects. Very, very exciting. Exciting to hear that we have national interest. And my impression is it's teams of different people who are come together.
Yes.
So this is, I think, very exciting for Durham to get people who are very experienced and talented and, can deliver on some, on what we want for the community. Sarah, will you give us some type of, I know you went through all the criteria that DFI and staff are going to look at. Will you be then presenting us with a rubric so that we can see exactly how everyone's been evaluated and what the comments are? And okay,
That's the goal, to get
great.
to a kind of easier apples to apples comparison.
And I think, I don't know, maybe it's already in their applications, but yeah, knowing about their backgrounds and I think, knowing the makeup of the companies and where they've done other projects. Have they submitted samples of the work that they've done other places?
Yes, they were required to submit 5 projects that they've done in the last.
Okay, great. So we're looking forward to the next steps, and I think as we get further along, it's going to be important for us to share when we come down to 2 or 3 or whatever it is, sharing that with the community, so that it's going to be important that this is not just our decision, but that we want community input into this. Community engagement has been very, very important part of all the work that we've done to get to those public community benefits, public priorities, and so we need to make sure that we're factoring that into the process. So. All right, well, thank you so much.
The memo you received this morning, which outlines everything we've spoken about today, will be on the project website. For anyone that's interested in that, I'll post that in the morning.
Okay. And do all of the people who have submitted know the timeline and the process as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, well, thank you so much. This is very exciting. On to the next step. Okay, next we have a discussion of the Durham County Public Art Policy and Program Draft Documents. Perry doesn't have to move.
Right.
But we have Linda coming up.
So, good afternoon, Commissioners. Linda has done a rigorous job sort of compiling all of this information and getting ready, for this presentation. This comes as a result of you guys asking to look at whether we can partner up with the city in terms of their process. And that's what we've done. So hopefully we can give you the opportunity to have further dialogue around our efforts to date and our steps moving forward. So I'll turn it over to Linda.
Good evening. I'm going to do just a brief recap of the things that you already know so that we're kind of on the same page. The directive to develop a policy came in December 2017.
And Linda, do you mind just pulling the microphone a little bit?
I'm so sorry.
A little bit closer.
Here we go.
Okay.
We started this in December of 2017, and it was 1 year ago that we presented the study that we did, which compared other sister cities in North Carolina and also outside of North Carolina. And then in November, the commissioners asked us to please explore what it would look like to develop a joint policy with the City of Durham. So we had meetings with them and have continued actually having meetings with them. Those meetings have been extremely productive, and we've learned quite a bit, as have they. And we had at the managers one-on-ones in February with each of you a sit down, except Commissioner Hill, you were not available. But so these documents that we're discussing tonight are the ones that you were given at that time. And we're here now to answer questions and to talk about the contents. So the public art policy is the first of the two documents. This would be text that is adoptable. And what it basically says is that the county will fund public art with 1% of the annual capital improvement budget for eligible projects. And some of those project types are things like anything in the UDO that requires what they call an element of interest, new buildings, libraries, public safety buildings, the kind of things that we're actually building at this time, and smaller structures as well. And then significant renovations to existing buildings. So that's where something like the judicial building would come in, where that was a very significant. There are a huge number of things that would not fall under this policy at all. Minor renovations at the level at which we do not need to bid them. So these are the very small items. Emergency repairs, replacements of furnishings, fencing, trails, studies, water intrusion, roof replacement, things that occur mostly underground, mechanical equipment, those sorts of things, and projects that are funded by enterprise. So those things are not part of what would be considered in the capital improvement plan for public art. And the way we have this set up at this time is that project management would manage the day-to-day processes under the policy for the county. And then there would be agencies doing approvals, and those are you, of course, as the commissioners, you will approve the funding for the planned projects for each year, and you would get a report during the planning process where projects that are being proposed would be listed and amounts of money that would need to be appropriated would be at that time. And then the City of Durham Cultural Advisory Board, and they oversee the City of Durham's process. They have a committee, a subcommittee that is the Public Art Committee. And the Public Art Committee does the nitty-gritty part of it. They are the arts experts. And so they're the ones who look at the actual art and the actual artists that are being proposed. And then they, in turn, help to populate a project-specific panel that lasts only long enough to receive proposals and interview artists. And after that's done and they've made a recommendation back to the PAC, then they are disbanded. So that's only for each individual project. And then in order to make this work for us, those two organizations right now both have City of in them, and they would need to be rebranded as just Durham Public Art Committee and Durham Cultural Advisory Board. The artist selection panel we just talked about, and then Durham County will have a designated person in project management who will be the point person to do the administration. And if at some point we end up with a tremendous amount of work going on, then we would need to look at possibly hiring somebody, but we don't foresee that in the immediate future. Okay, the next steps, this is what we're proposing at this time, is we would be directed by you to move on to the next step. The next step is that we would put this on the agenda for the joint city-county planning meeting. And we would have this sort of discussion with them, and specifically about the rebranding of the two agencies, because those are appointed. In June, we would get the approval to do the rebranding. In June, we would get your approval to move forward. You would adopt the policy and the program. And then in June, someone in project management would be designated to be the point person for the program from that point on. And then in spring 2020, that would be the first time that a public art plan was approved. And that would be developed during the course of the year as far as looking forward to what the next year's funding needed to be for public art. After the formal adoption, the program is going to result in art installations that engage and enliven and inspire and educate. And by doing what we're doing, we're actually putting our money where our mouth is. We're saying that the community is something that we help create, and we're using art to help bring people together, to start dialogues, that this is something that we can use to celebrate our history and our diversity. It's something that all citizens can appreciate, and it's something that leaves a legacy that says we cared enough about our community to install public art. So at this point, I would love to entertain your questions.
But thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for all of your work. It was a reminder that hearing that we first talked about this a year ago, how long that you've been working on this and how you've been now working with the city and revamped things. So I appreciate all the time and thought and effort that you have put into this. I have some questions, but I will wait. Commissioner Howerton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To go back to, you said 1% of the annual CIP budget. What is?
For the construction projects that fall under the parameters of being considered for public art. So that's certainly not everything.
So you can't give us a figure right now, it's just?
I don't know.
Commissioners, that's contingent on what the board adopts in terms of the CIP. Obviously, we're having those discussions right now, so this is something that we'll need to consider as we move forward with this.
Okay. My other question is where it says that the city approves a culture advisory board. Where is the county in that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question.
June 2019, the city of Durham approves a culture advisory board. What part is the county in that?
What we're suggesting is that those two agencies will serve both city and county. We're not merging the two, and we're not combining funding. What we're doing is adopting the same process.
I just didn't see the county's part in it. It's like, okay, where's the county here? All right, thank you.
Commissioner Reckow?
Thank you for all your hard work on this. I think we've really evolved in honing in on a good product. In your PowerPoint, you do show a role for the county commissioners approving funding. I didn't see that laid out in the 6-page draft book art policy. It doesn't really show us having any role. And I was a little concerned about that. I think we should, as you say in the PowerPoint, be approving funds, but also I do think, because it's such a prominent public-facing item, I do think that the final piece be brought to us at a public, even if it require a vote for our information. So I would actually like that.
Can I just interject? I was going to say that I think this is a good time to, because this is a work in progress, that I think this is a good time to give some feedback about, whatever we might want the policy to be in the final product. So this is a good time to do that.
Yeah. Right. And then the only other thing that struck me related to policy is, and I think I brought it up, is in the exemptions to policy, it seems as though it doesn't even open the door for project. I think there needs to be a category that general of that may be inappropriate. For example, if we have a storage facility on not well-traveled road, it doesn't fall into any of these categories here, the exempt, but it may make no sense to have
Yes,
public art.
that is correct. What would happen in a case like that is if the county decides that that project is not an appropriate location for public art, then the money stays in the pool that it can be used for something that comes up. For example, art in a lobby of an existing building where someone decides, oh, this would be a fantastic place to put art, but otherwise we would have no funds in order to do it. So there is a little bit of...
But what concerns me is we are very broad in what's included, and then the exemptions are very tightly worded. And I'm concerned that there's not a catch-all category of exemptions where, due to location, type of use, etc., that a project doesn't make. See what I'm saying?
I do.
So I do think that a refinement in the exemption to allow for certain types of projects where it doesn't make sense due to location, type of use, etc., be on the list as a category. Because otherwise, I'm afraid 10 years from now, other people are looking at this as to the policy of the board, and it's not clear. They might think that if it's not a minor renovation, if it's not a roof replacement. You see what I'm saying? If it doesn't fit in these categories, oh, well then it has to have public art. That would. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Carter?
So just to follow up a little on Ellen's questions, do all new capital projects that meet the eligibility criteria will the policy mandate that they have public art, or that will really be up to the administration's discretion or the commissioner's discretion? No.
No. The kinds of projects that fall under that will fall under that, and there will be the 1% appropriated for those projects. Now, those are things where we are expecting to be putting in public art. So if, for example, we decided it was a poor location for public art, then that money would stay in the public art fund. So it would just stay there until there was a need for it to be spent on public art.
So the 1% is of the total CIP budget, or is it item by item, like project by project?
Project by
like
project.
This project, it is appropriate, so we're taking 1%. This project, it is, but that one that wasn't appropriate, it seems like you'd just say, this one's not appropriate, so we're not taking 1% of it. That's not how it works. So it is 1% of the total CIP. For projects that qualify.
So projects that qualify then is the per project. It is only the ones that qualify. And probably need just to get this clarified. I think this is an example of how, and probably will give us an example so how we can see how that would work.
I think our thinking with that, Commissioners, there are some projects that the UDO requires us to have an element of interest, so that those are givens.
Okay.
Then the other projects that Linda had outlined, the criteria would dictate what we would do in terms of public art. And again, I do agree with Commissioner Reckow. We do need refinement as to the appropriateness of some of those. So we'll go back and revisit that and just clean it up a bit. And
Okay, that sounds good. And then once you all refine it, and then it's clear to all of us, I guess, what it includes. At that point, do you look at all of those that are would be included that either had to have public art by virtue of the UDO or were eligible according to the criteria that you all established, and then that total, you'd say 1% of that is in the public art kitty?
yes, our intent was initially to have 1% of the total CIP. But again, I think Linda mentioned earlier that the board, we would have to come back annually and get your approval on that. So that would be another opportunity for you guys to weigh in and say, hey, I think this is appropriate, but maybe we shouldn't do this here.
Okay.
So we have an opportunity to sort of flush that out.
Okay.
Just to be perfectly clear in respect to where the 1% came from, over the last year since staff has been doing this work, what Linda and Perry had an opportunity to do was look at best practices across the country and find out essentially who was doing this work well. And having done that, it was very synonymous, quite frankly, with what we found in the research. So it's a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like it. I like the 1%. I like your recommendations to us. I like how seriously you've taken this work, Linda. It's amazing. You've taken it on as like your baby brainchild, and really appreciate all the effort.
There has been actually some movement since we met with all of you. Because of working with the city, we have been working more closely together as time has gone on, partially because of Main Library. So up until the point at which the artists are selected, we had folks from the CAB and the PAC involved in the project-specific panel, which it's been very good. I was invited to attend last month the monthly meeting of both of those agencies, and I was requested to explain to them what it was that you had asked us to do. And they were very, very excited. They were very supportive. They were very happy. They liked the idea of the rebranding of those two agencies to serve, because it's all county, cities in the county. So they were very pleased with this. And then I received contact from a public art consultant who is working on behalf of the North Carolina State Arts Council, and she has looked at the documents and is also very supportive of this. So we have support now at the state level, which is kind of good feedback to get.
Right.
Fantastic.
And Commissioner Hill, did you have any comments? Okay. So, Commissioner Howerton?
I'm still not clear about the way this is structured when you say that, because it looks like the county will not be appointing people to the cultural advisory. So this is confusing for me. Can you say that it's not all one, but the way this reads, it is all one. And the county is not appointing people to this cultural advisory board. So
No, but we've recommended that they do.
Once it
let me just interject. We're going to put this on the agenda for the joint city-county meeting, and we're going to have to talk about it with them, and they're going to have to agree to change the appointment process and the makeup of the commission so that it's a joint city-county commission.
Otherwise, it does.
Yeah.
That's what was confusing for me. It looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we recommended that in the document that the percentage of board members on those be the same as the percentage of county residents outside the city. But that was also before I knew who those people are. And what the city has not updated their documents since 2011. And those documents say specifically that they are giving priority to people within the city limits, and that is not what they are doing. So it's people who are city or county, or in some cases, people who work in Durham but don't live in Durham. And I was very, very impressed by the people who are on those. I can't imagine it being a better group. Very diverse, very plugged into the whole art scene, very appropriate, very professional. So that was a nice confidence booster.
I just don't remember the last group doing anything that was pertaining to the county. It was basically the city, the cultural advisory team. I think that was mostly related to city art. So if they're going to do it related to the county, I don't remember it being related to the county. Maybe it was.
They did, and
before my time.
In fact, they're the ones who first brought up committing a certain of project cost art. It was that group. They brought us a proposal.
When was that?
Oh my goodness, probably
Okay, that was
6 or 7 years ago.
It's before my time.
Yeah.
So anyway, just in the interest of time, so I have a number of comments and questions, very specific. I'm not going to take up a lot of time right now. That I'm just going to email and copy, and then I can also speak with you. What I'm personally concerned with is that there right now I see a lot of inconsistencies between what's in the program and what's in the policy. And I want to be very clear that the goals and the mission and the criteria is really aligned. And in terms of the stated goals of the policy, I just want to make sure that, for instance, one of the things that I thought was important to include in our goals is to have an equitable approach to public art. Culturally sensitive and equitable, because we state, you have in there in the program, you have a whole section about equity, but it's not necessarily reflected all the way through. I think we have to be very careful to have consistency about what we're trying to do. My other question was, and I loved in the conclusion that you talked about how we want to promote our history, our diversity, and our creativity, but we actually don't really have in our policy that that history is something that can be something we want to promote in the art, in public history. So again, I think that's something we have to be clear about is something that we want, could be one of the goals, actually, is to promote our history and our diversity and our creativity. I was concerned about the exact role of our board, which I think Commissioner Reckow has mentioned. It kind of refers to the county manager as making the final decision on some of these things. And I think that because I do think, I understand we want to take us out of the subjective process of deciding, but I think I'm curious, the city does not bring it back to the city council at all?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, so they've changed that.
They have.
Okay, so I guess we just need to think about, again, at least having some process where it's shared publicly. I mean, it's, we just.
So I do think sharing publicly is great. I do not think we should be the ones that make the decision by vote. I think that politicizes it.
Yeah, I understand how we need to leave it to the professionals and the arts community. So I think, again, a lot of these things I'm just going to email you rather than take up time right now. I think we have to remember that also that art, we've seen that the Durham Arts Council did a study about the economic development benefits of art. And I also want to make sure that we emphasize that this is about our small business people, local artists. I guess that's one thing I would like to maybe know more about how the city deals with is balancing, just getting big national artists versus us promoting our own local artists and, again, who I see as local small business people. So how do we kind of strike a balance between that? And I wasn't clear also from the public art program about the community engagement part, because I know the city has been choosing artists, and then there's often a public engagement process related to what their art, what the final product is going to be. So I think I want to make sure we're really careful about that.
Yes, there is a flow chart in that document that talks about what the communication points are, and there are several of them that involve press releases or outreach, depending on what the art is, of course, and what the project is.
And I'll just say, to me, a great example of public art is the project that's down on the Liberty Project wall, Central Park.
Oh, yeah, that is cool.
I took so many pictures this weekend. Every time I walked by there, because I was doing full frame this weekend, 3 different times I walked by there. There are 3 panels, and every single time there were different groups of people who were in different ages, different backgrounds, who were putting the colored pegs in the wall, and every day there was it was a different art project that was up there on the wall. So to me, that has been such a huge success, that project. And I think that's what we want to really hope for, something that really enriches our community, that promotes interaction and there's so many benefits. So thank you, and I will. So we will put this on the agenda for the joint city-county meeting, and I think it will be helpful, Linda, if you could help us with the exact decision points that we need to discuss with the city council members.
We can take care
meeting.
of that.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we have, with a heavy heart, consideration to discontinue the Durham Orange County Light Rail project. And I don't know, we have some transportation staff with us tonight. Are you here just as a resource? Is that your role here tonight? Because I don't see anyone here from Go Triangle.
They just like coming to our meetings.
Yeah. I guess, Mr. Manager, are you taking the lead on this, or?
I can, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, tonight the board is requested to consider discontinuing the Durham Orange Light Rail project as recommended by the Gold Triangle Board of Trustees. This action will satisfy the requirements of the interlocal cost-sharing agreement for the Durham Orange Light Rail Transit Project by formally discontinuing the project and beginning a process to reallocate the funds that have been allocated to the light rail project through an amended Durham County Transit Plan. On March 27, 2019, the Gold Triangle Board of Trustees voted unanimously to recommend that the cost-sharing partners in Durham and Orange counties and the Durham, Chapel Hill, Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization discontinue the light rail project. In light of that, I am recommending this evening that the board discontinue the Durham Orange Light Rail project and authorize staff to begin developing a process to amend the Durham County Transit Plan.
Okay, comments from commissioners. Commissioner Recco.
Well, Madam Chair, of course, there's been a lot of news coverage about this, but I just wanted to say on our own public record that as I thought about this situation, particularly over the last month, when we were really looking at whether we could salvage this project, what became clear is that the North Carolina General Assembly, their actions over the past 4 years have made path forward very difficult because they reduced our funding on several occasions, and we started out with an assumption of 25% state of the project cost, and then and that was based on what Charlotte got from the state first two light rail project. And then they reduced it. Actually, they cut it initially, remember, down to 500,000 almost for build the project, and we waited next year to go back and get restoration, and that's when we got it restored up to 10%. But now in last year's session, again, they were planning to zero us out, and we salvaged it at 7.7%. But that was only with the addition of time frame that we had to meet. And in the current Strategic Transportation Investment Program, the STIP, it's my understanding that our project is the only one listed out of over 3,000 projects that has a time frame attached to it. So I wanted to point that out because what that did to our project was make it less resilient. We had no extra funds. We were down to all the flesh, we were down to bones, in terms of the amount of money we had. And we had less flexibility because of these times. What it essentially meant is that everything pretty much had to go perfect. We had to meet every single target that we had from a time viewpoint, et cetera. And we had much less flexibility bonding to additional project costs. I just think that's important background information because people may look at this. What happened? How could this possibly happen? but the hand we were dealt was a hand that required things to go. It's important to think about that. And then, of course, we did get a letter at the end of February from Duke indicating that they would not sign the cooperative agreement with us. And that was a big blow. We did, I co-wrote a letter with Jeff Mann, the O Triangle CEO, asking about a week later for Duke back with mediated negotiation, 4 to 6 week period. They declined. But, you know, we did make an effort even after we got the first letter saying they didn't, trying to get them back, but that did not work out. And I wanted to say, in terms of the railroad, while they were willing to continue to negotiate, they did put a benchmark or requirement on us that, again, was difficult to meet, largely because of time frames. The downtown grade separation, tunnels and the bridge, which we had agreed to, and they like. I mean, they actually like our proposal for downtown better than where we had been. But they wanted us to be at 65% design, and we weren't yet until sometime in August, which would back us up and make not able to meet the November funding grant. In addition, a few other things came out just in March that were indicative of the fact that we were hurt by the federal shutdown, which lasted 6 weeks, because we learned that we had extra costs that we needed to meet, but we learned about all that in March, early March, as opposed to January when we were. And then we also learned that we needed an environmental assessment for the downtown. And we had asked that question back in December, but didn't get an answer. Again, I would attribute. The bottom line is the lack of the flexibility imposed by the General Assembly. These other things, or we could have dealt with them possibly. And we asked our legislators, was there a chance of getting a time change out of the General? They thought that that was virtually nil. So the bottom line is that we did look at whether there was a path forward. After looking at it, we decided that there was not. I do want to say, though, that the board did commit, and part of the motion that we adopted was that we look at our public investment in the project and see what we can repurpose out of it. And so I would just want to assure everyone that there is a commitment for you to evaluate the corridor and see what aspect of investment we've made can be repurposed into some other approach. And we are committed to a robust planning process going forward. The estimated to update our transit plan is 12 to 15 months. So we will be working actively over an extended period, because we have to go back and really, pull community together, our stakeholders together, and see what we wanted. Make sure we try to get it, right. So all of that will be going on, and obviously it's incredibly disappointing. But I also want to say that I think the Go Triangle Board will be looking at lessons learned out of this project. That effort has already started. Really scrutinizing how things were handled better. I personally think we've got to be much clearer with our community partners. Get things nailed down earlier in the process. That's a lesson learned that I personally have. But I'm sure there'll be a lot more that.
Commissioner Howerton.
I have a quick question, and I guess this would go to either Ellen or Wendy. I think we heard tonight at the PAC meeting a conversation about what the money will be spent on. So there's beginning to be a conversation in the community that some of the money is already being spent on buses. And what else will happen to the dollars? So for the community, what can we tell them as to related to what's happening, the dollars that Go Triangle's already received? And because the other question was around the tax dollars continuing. And, I told them that, the community voted on that. So what else can you share with the community, given these questions are coming up, and they're coming up pretty frequent?
Well, close to $8 million gets spent in Durham from the transit fund, largely for bus service and some support of transit. But we fund, we fund expansion or expanded costs for bus service. There was an agreement that we didn't want to supplant services that were already provided when the transit. But we do fund some inflationary costs. It's about $900,000. We also fund new enhanced bus, and that's about $4 million. And we fund capital improvements, largely new buses, bus stop improvements. It all totals up to close to just under.
Can we get something in writing so that we can be able to share those numbers with the community when they ask?
So we just got a one-pager that Brigetta sent to all of us from Go Triangle, which I don't know if you saw that email, but we got sent it. And then I asked Deborah if we can start a web page on the Durham County website to put that. And I'm glad that Mo is actually here because that's one of her jobs. And Mo, if you could please work with Deborah and our staff, because we really want to make sure that all of the information about the Durham Transit Plan is on the Durham County website, that we have links, anything to the MPO, any MPO information, Go Triangle information, but we need to get this information to people in the community about what's being spent on the bus routes, bus stops, what's the budget for the commuter rail, what we've spent. We heard tonight about people wanting to understand what we spent on the light rail. So people are very interested right now in transit. We need to take advantage of that opportunity to educate the community. I just want to follow up before other commissioners speak on Commissioner Recow's very important point about the state funding. not only was our project the only project at the federal level that had these deadlines, the Durham Orange Light Rail project is the only project that had been funded through our state transportation funding process that was supposed to take politics out of transportation funding and award projects their funding based on the merits. The Durham Orange Light Rail was the only project in the state to have two things done to it. Number one, have the deadlines, artificial deadlines imposed. Second of all, to have the funding that had been allocated through the funding process to have that funding cut. We are the only one to have the political process imposed on us. And to think that we went from 25% funding, which was what we were eligible for, down to 10%, and then a year ago in May and June, have that then cut further to 7.7%. It's not fair. And what Commissioner Recco mentioned about how we lost a lot of our flexibility, Durham County, we stepped up to the plate and said, okay, we'll put another $57.6 million of our transit funds into the project to make up for the state funding cuts. And so that really left us with that. We lost some of the buffer that we could have had when we got to this point. And so I'm just really proud of Durham County because we did everything that we could. Every time we had hurdles thrown in our path, people rallied, and we tried so hard. We tried so hard. And, the state of North Carolina, this is about our future. This project would have created 20,000 jobs. It would have brought in $1.25 billion into the state of North Carolina. There were 27 counties that would have benefited because of the supply chain businesses involved in this project. There were 600 or 700 transportation approved contractors in the state of North Carolina, all over the state, who could have worked on this project. It would have generated $600 million in yearly GDP for the state of North Carolina and $175 million in new state and local tax revenue. This was not a Durham project. This was not a Durham and Orange project. This was a state project. And if our state is going to be able to compete at the national and at the world level, this has got to stop. We will not be able to compete. And we are not separated by an urban-rural divide. We are connected. We are connected by urban and rural counties. And, we just, this is about the future of our state. So we need funding for transportation, and we need a fair process moving forward for all of the people in the state of North Carolina. So, Commissioner Carter.
That was a beautiful speech from Wendy and Ellen, actually, which makes me want to say here how grateful I am to Ellen as the chair of the Go Triangle Board, Wendy as our board chair. I mean, you all worked monomaniacally on this and gave it your all, and I just thank you so much. I know how hard it was on everybody, on both of you, for the time commitment and just the emotional worry about it all. You're right, though. You gave it your best shot, jumped every hurdle that came in the way, and we really appreciate that. And I also want to say how much I appreciated the sort of passion and leadership from John Talmadge, the project director at the end, and Matthew Clark. They were great. They, not being on the Go Triangle board or the, MP, really, anyway. They did a great job of keeping us informed, I thought, and I was so appreciative of that and just wanted to say that publicly. And now, we've been through this sort of grieving process, and I am just really eager to have the next process begin and to learn what the next best option is. And hopefully it'll be one that we'll be able to use the alignment, like you were saying, Ellen, repurpose what can be. Hopefully it'll be some sort of an option that will still lead and guide development around transit, you know, so that we'll have the density around station areas or something similar. You know, something that will relieve congestion and smog and promote health and increase jobs and access to jobs and health care and services, you know, all the things that we want. And I also, however, am really curious to see if maybe there will be a refocus on more enhanced bus service. I mean, I don't know if that will happen, but I could make a case for it. And so I just am very, you know, look at this. It is a challenge, but it could be it could be an opportunity as well. And so ready to take that next leap toward it.
Commissioner Hill?
First, I want to feedback on Commissioner Carter's statement, and I want to thank Commissioner Reckow and Chair Jacobs for the hard work that you've done. You've done yeoman's work. I know you've put countless hours, put heart, put sweat, tears, I know, into this, and the community still owes you a debt of gratitude. They do. You all have done. You tried an incredible task, and I'm sorry we are here, but I just want to thank you for all the efforts that you've done. Durham is a community. Durham is a place that is on the map because one man was wise enough to donate land for rail, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're sitting here. Rail at that time was, it gave people opportunity, right? And giving people opportunity creates growth. And here in Durham, we were able to bring in a tobacco manufacturer, right? And he put in his factory here because there was rail, right? And during the Civil War, troops came here because there was rail, right? And the railhead was important. And then Durham tobacco got known nationwide. That tobacco empire expanded, and that gave more opportunity, right? An opportunity for a family to bring a struggling college to Durham, right? And other people to Durham. It gave African Americans opportunity to work and to build our own community, right? It gave us the opportunity to build Hayti, right? To build mechanics and farmers, to build mutual life, to build our own bricks, to make our own homes, to have our own institutions, to have our own banks. And it's important that we as a community seize on opportunity. We should never be afraid to step forward, even though it's expensive, even though it may seem risky. That's how great things happen, because people take risks and because people move forward on opportunity. And again, it's sad to be here. It almost feels like a death in the family, but we're going to move forward. Durham is resilient. We're fighters, and we're going to figure this out and have more modes of transportation. And this city and this county are going to do great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. That was really great historical analysis, and you're absolutely right. About what it means, transportation, what transportation means, what having a fixed corridor means. And that's why the light rail project was so important. And that's why we do have to move forward with a fixed route. And we do have to enhance bus service, but we can't think that we can work our way out of sprawl and traffic by just adding more buses. Their buses will still be sitting in the traffic. So we have to, yes, Commissioner Howerton.
I'm really interested in what's next to, we are where we are now, when I asked Go Triangle what was plan B, we just need to pivot and, this has happened. We need to move forward. We can't keep going backward. It's what's happened has happened. Let's pivot and see what can we do here. That's what I'd like to hear from Go.
Well, and there is one other project that we have committed some funds to that we will continue to be working on, and it relates to what James just brought up, our railroad right behind us. We are actually looking at for commuter rail run from downtown RTP with probably 2 stops, one in Raleigh, and possibly on in Johnson County. But the bottom line is we've committed about $800,000 planning money to get that going. So that is a work in progress also. But again, we need to amend our transit. That's the guiding policy document that the Go Triangle staff uses to then implement what our priorities are with the, and now we've got gap, and so we have to go back and look at what we want to do, what the phasing should be, and the flow of the money. We have gap in our plan because light rail.
Oh, I thought you meant we have a gap in dollars. Okay.
We'll actually start to accrue dollars because more money will be coming in the door, going out. Be healthy. But I'm just saying that we have to regroup and look at what we want. Will require looking at various options and deciding.
How will those discussions happen? Where will they happen? How will they happen? When will they start happening?
Well, the staff's going to do some groundwork initially. And I think we need to decide, I think that we will need to decide how often we want to interface with the staff and whether we pull together a citizens advisory group, advise the process. There's a lot of things that we're beginning to think about and any input. But what I think we need to do, the staff right now is doing a lot of unwinding.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to distract them because they're in the process of unwinding the consultants, all that. At the same time, just beginning to assess preliminarily what looks like. But as soon as they're done with very short needs, maybe at an upcoming work, get guidance from the board as a whole about how we periodically out the next level with them and maybe begin to think about how we get broader community and really thoughtful and robust.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do.
Yeah. So before we take the vote, I just want to say that I wanted to share a few comments in general. That, like the vote on March 27th at the Go Triangle Board of Trustees meeting, voting to suspend work on the Durham Orange Light Rail project is the most difficult vote I've ever had to. And it's only because I felt personally that all possible paths had been exhausted that I was able to vote the way that I did on March 27th and the way that I will today. I want to acknowledge, I'm sorry that nobody's here from Go Triangle, but I really want to acknowledge the dedication and hard work of so many Go Triangle staff members, not just John Talmadge, but project engineers like Catherine Eggleston and Dave Charters, planners like Jeff Green and Patrick McDonough, people like Matthew Clark and Sandra Freeman. There are just so many, too many people to name, but I believe that we wouldn't have even gotten to where we were again if we hadn't had staff that were so devoted to this project and did everything that they could. I want to acknowledge members of our community, people like Kevin Primus who are here, so many individuals and organizations like the Coalition for Affordable Housing and Transit, Durham CAN, the Durham Committee, the People's Alliance, organizations at Duke, the Climate Change Coalition, and the Duke People's State, the Duke Faculty Union, just so many people at Duke, in the Duke community and the Durham community that have worked so hard, so committed to what the values and the shared goals about equity and climate change that people are so devoted to. I want to acknowledge planning department staff who have worked for years on all of the light rail planning and all of the work around affordable housing. Anthony Scott from the Housing Authority, who's been a tireless spokesman for this project. Secretary of Transportation Jim Trogdon, Congressman Butterfield, and David Price, who, again, vocal advocates for this project. And institutional partners. We had great institutional partners with North Carolina Central University, UNC Hospital and Medical Center, the VA Hospital, who all recognized how important this project is or was for their students, for their workers, for their faculty, for their patients, for the people in our community. I want to acknowledge my colleagues, Ellen Reckow and Steve Schul. As Steve said at our Go Triangle meeting, we almost moved in together. And I feel like we all really gave it our best and our all. So we have many important conversations and discussions that need to take place over the next few weeks about lessons learned and what can we build upon from our work and investments and what are our options about moving forward. And if one of the silver linings is that now people are, I think, more educated than ever about transit. People really want to be involved and engaged, and we need to hear from the community. So we have a lot of questions, but there are some things that I know for sure, and we know that we need a reliable, convenient, affordable, rapid regional transit system connecting Durham, Orange, and Wake counties so that people of our growing region can have a mobility option to get to the jobs, healthcare, and educational opportunities within our 3 counties. We know that we need to have a fixed route corridor because this is the only way to have a traffic-free option that protects our water, air, trees and fights climate change. It's the only way to manage our population growth and have more high-density, mixed-use, walkable neighborhoods. It's an important way for us to address our affordable housing crisis and the growing poverty and racial and economic inequities in Durham and our region. I believe that we in Durham are up for this challenge, and as an elected representative of this community, I will never stop fighting for what the light rail project has been about. And I will never stop fighting for what is in the best interest of the people of Durham and for the needs that must be addressed. And I am confident that the people of Durham will rise back up and continue our work together to figure out our next steps. While we must take time to reflect, there is also a sense of urgency because transportation projects have long timelines and there is such limited state and federal funding, and we have specific deadlines that people like Aaron can remind us about. So Durham, let's pick ourselves back up, brush ourselves off and figure out what's next, and let's get back in line for the funding for that project. So I will entertain a motion.
I would so move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Recco, seconded by Commissioner Carter. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the recommendation is unanimously approved.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if you don't mind me saying so, I really want to give a special thanks to Willie Darby for all the work he put into this over the particularly the last few months, drafting and redrafting those documents. So I really want to thank Willie for that.
Thank you, and you're absolutely right, Lowell. And
Karen Hammond for the work she used to do on it.
Yeah, everybody who worked on this. And Willie, you were the one who helped write the interlocal agreement that we are now, the cost share agreement that we're now disbanding. And the manager helped to prepare us for what other options, all the staff, Claudia, Drew, so many people who were involved in just being ready for this scenario or that scenario, so that whatever we had to act upon. So thank you, Lowell. And I do want to recognize the manager for helping us be ready for whatever actions that we were going to be taking. So thank you. Okay, so we are going into closed session here. The board is requested to adjourn to closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged in the matter of Francisco Devero Rodriguez versus Michael Andrews, Paul Aiken, Durham County and Traverse Casualty and Surety Company, file number 18-CVS-312, pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3.
And there's a second one.
Oh, and the second one.
On your main agenda.
Okay. Is that the first one that's listed or the second?
Yes, that was the first one you read.
Okay, second one. To consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer employee, prospective public officer employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer employee pursuant to general statute. No, I just read the wrong one. It's the first one. Okay, 318.11A6. Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reckow, seconded by Commissioner Howerton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And we're unanimously adjourned into closed session.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming up here.
Moved by Commissioner, moved by Commissioner Carter, seconded by Commissioner Reckow? Oh, no, or was it Howerton? Oh, Howerton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're unanimously adjourned.